Hello, friends, family, compatriots. I tell you how important it was for me to be here today, to be with you. I was giving a talk last night that ended about 10 o'clock in Calgary, Canada, and took a midnight flight, changed in Toronto this morning about 6 o'clock. Got here just in time to take a shower and be here with you. And that is because this matters. I think because you matter. I think because we matter. I think because our community matters. So for that, you just go a little bit extra.
Yes.
I want to start with asking a question of Nazie. You saw Speaker Pelosi was gracious enough to introduce us. One of the hallmarks of PAAIA is to have its members being well-placed, so when the time comes, they can pick up the phone and call a government official in the appropriate area and do an ask on behalf of the community. Now, whether it is Nowruz declaration or whether it is multiple visa, and it is done quietly, it is done behind the scene, it is not with a lot of breastfeeding, but very effective. I know Nazie is very engaged in that dimension of PAAIA, so I would like Nazie to elaborate on that a bit.
Thank you, Firouz Jan. First of all, thank you so much for that warm welcome. It is absolutely terrific to be here in Washington, D.C. amongst friends, my daughter Roz, my co-helpers in the cause for human rights, and my families. So thank you very much. Simply what I did, thanks. By the way, I am told I am wearing Madonna mic, so be very careful of the next part of this act. What I did with Mrs. Pelosi was very simple. I told her I was going on stage with the head of the director of all solar systems. Ah, voila. Seriously, though, as you all know, PAAIA is the largest Iranian American organization in the country and has been led by a number of people, including Firouz Aziz. But part of PAAIA is also an organization called IAPAC, the Iranian American PAC, which I was a part of. IAPAC actually predates PAAIA, but was merged into PAAIA when PAAIA was started a few years ago. IAPAC has raised a total of $3 million, over $3 million for various politicians, Republican, Democrat, and certainly Iranian Americans. And part of the agenda has always been to advance the causes that are near and dear to the hearts of Iranian Americans. And we do a survey of this annually, which I hope you'll access. We're about to start our survey for this year. And please go to the website and donate generously. Remember these good feelings? Hold on to them until tonight. And so we have been in reflecting your feelings and your opinions on issues such as the multiple entry visa. We've not only worked through our organization, but also individually. I mean, there are any number of our board members, Hamid Biglari and others, who worked very hard. But specifically on the Nowruz resolution, for example, it might interest you to know that it was pulled out of a packet of 52 resolutions at the last minute in March, and Murad Qurban, who is the tireless staffer, really, Murad. Our tireless staffer called us and said, they've pulled the Nowruz resolution out, and we don't know why. The only resolution pulled out. And I called the Speaker's office, and they quickly went to work and put it back into the packet. and we got it passed. And as Rudy says, it only took us 32 years to get our New Year's recognized. So I think in the end, our unity, the tenacity of our team and our board members pays off, and it is a strategy that's worked, and I hope will be supported by you in the long run. So our format, as you can see, is to ask each other questions, and the reason we're standing is because Firouz won't sit. So when they said, do you want a handheld mic like Maz and Rudy, or what do you want to do? I'm like, aren't we sitting? And Firouz goes, I can't sit. So my turn to ask Firouz a question. Firouz John, you are without a doubt a star in our community and who shines very brightly. Let me ask you this. Why is it that you haven't been nabbed by a gorgeous woman so far? That was the first question, right? Do I have interviewers Tourette's?
She is a terror to be on a stage with. You can see.
No, seriously. Now that the question's out there, answer it. No. Let me ask you this. When did you come to the United States? And I know Mrs. Pelosi said some 40 years ago, but after all this time, do you consider yourself an Iranian, a Persian, or do you consider yourself an American?
Well, I think I have integrated both of my identity into who I am. I'm certainly not in denial about either one of them. I've been in the United States about 47 years. That's a good portion of my life. I love this country. And why shouldn't I? It has given me certainly professionally an opportunity to do the kind of thing that I probably would have not been able to do anywhere else. Socially, it has given me an opportunity to speak my mind, to vote, to have a religion or not to have a religion, and all sorts of freedoms. So I feel indebted to this country, and I love America, and I say that unabashedly. And then, how can I not love Iran? That's where my roots are. I was born there. I love the history of that great culture. One thing that binds us all together is that we're really fortunate to be able to claim both the American culture and the ideals of this young nation compared to what Iran is, and then still have our roots in Persian history. My parents are there. I go back centuries. So I cannot deny being Iranian any more than I can deny myself. I feel that the two has shaped my character, and I don't think of myself as an Iranian or as an American. I feel myself as an Iranian American, and I'm proud of both of them.
You doing good?
Nazie, for those of you who might not know her intimately, is, in addition to being a very successful,
we're very intimate when we're not on stage.
In addition to being I'm the straight man, she's the funny lady. So, in addition to being a very successful businesswoman in a very tough field in healthcare, she is certainly not a one-dimensional woman. I would like to ask her about the passion that she has for the Iranian children and what the foundation for which she is executive director what does it do for young Iranian kids which require medical care?
Thank you, Firouz Jan. You've been honored by our foundation, and justifiably so. I do a lot of nonprofit work. I think that I feel it is, in addition to PAAIA, I feel that it is the thanks you give for the good fortune that you have enjoyed in life. I was born into a very fortunate family in Iran, and even though we had some setbacks along the way, my life in America has been truly blessed in every way imaginable. So, you know, if for whatever reason Iran, and I'm not a very religious person, but if the events in Iran was a door that God shut on me out of his wisdom or her wisdom, then America was a land and a door that God opened on me out of his mercy. And for all of those blessings, for the blessing of the good health of my children, I work tirelessly in a number of nonprofit endeavors. I'm on the board of the University of Minnesota Medical Center, the Carlson Business School. I really work hard giving back to this country that allowed me the good fortune of liberty and dignity. And then I also work on the board of the Walker Art Center and other places, but most importantly to me is the field of human rights for Iran, as well as healthcare. 20 years ago, I started a foundation called the Foundation for the Children of Iran, along with my cousin, who at the time was actually just over 20 years old and attending the George Washington University here in Washington, D.C. Yes. And it may interest the next geners in PAAIA to know that we had absolutely no money, and we would hold parties here in DC for $15 a head. And with that money, we would bring patients from Iran here for treatment. The way we leveraged the money was, of course, through my healthcare connections. We could take every dollar and leverage it into $5 of healthcare services. So over the last 20 years, and this year we celebrate our 20th anniversary, we have brought dozens and dozens of children here for life-saving and life-altering treatment. And every one of those, it has been our pleasure and our privilege to serve them and their families. But before I tell you about the patients we're expecting, I do want to send out a word of acknowledgement. I always talk about the foundation as a chain of hope that goes from Minnesota through DC, New York, Dubai, and Tehran. And many of the links of this chain cannot be identified for their own safety and security. But many years ago, we had lots of awful problems getting visas for these kids, as you can imagine, with the relationship between Iran and the United States being what it is. And someone introduced me to a man called Ramin Asgard. And what you don't know about Ramin Asgard is after a very brief meeting here in Washington, D.C., he arranged for me to go into the State Department, meet with about 24 people, and since then, our children have gone through the visa process. As one of the mothers said to me, Khanum Eftekhari, 30 saniye, 30 seconds it took for their visas to be approved. So I have said to myself that wherever I am and I see Ramin in a public forum, I will say to you, Ramina Asgard, on behalf of the mothers and children we have served, thank you, thank you, thank you. Ramin Asgard. Thank you, Ramin. And with that, I will tell you that a couple of months ago, VOA invited me to go and speak about the foundation, which I did, and as a result of that interview, we are awaiting 2 children One is an Iranian girl who's a refugee in Iraq, and she got her leg amputated as a result of an accident that occurred on Charshambe Suri. So can you imagine, you're a refugee and all, you know, life just goes on. And the other one is a 1.5-year-old boy from Tehran who has bladder exstrophy. So shortly we'll be reporting to you all of that good news. So with that, I will turn back to Firouz and ask him, you know, I know you have your plate full with the solar system. God, I love that title. So tell me, you have initiated this Next Gen program, which is a source of great pride for all of us, and we've gotten to meet some wonderful young Iranian Americans that we're very proud of. Tell me a little bit more about what caused that initiative.
I'll answer your question in a minute, but you know, you keep talking about solar systems, so I need to show off a little bit.
Good.
And tell you about a particular project that we have right now. So last week, Sunday, we launched a spacecraft to the moon, in fact, a pair of spacecrafts to the moon. But not directly in a roundabout way, because sometimes in space, if you go the roundabout way, you use less energy to get you know, to the moon. So we'll get there, in fact, New Year's Eve at the moon. So the idea is that you take these two spacecrafts, and they're separated by 200 kilometers and as it orbits the moon. But we monitor it to see whether that distance, the 200-kilometer, changes to the detail of the thickness of a human hair. And as it turns out, if you can measure that fluctuation between the two spacecraft through some complex algorithm, you can relate that to the internal structure of the moon. And that in turn will tell you, you know, how did, you know, there are different theories about how the moon was formed. And, you know, this will sort of inform, you know, that debate. So anyway, now back to the question of PAAIA and PAAIA Next Gen. I'm gonna steal a line from my good friend, Dr. Biglari, Hamid Biglari. I think it was in one of these PAAIA Next Gen events when he said, if I don't butcher his statement, that really no life can be considered impactful unless it includes service to the community. And so with that, you know, you take a look at, you know, the Iranian American community, and a segment within that is your sons and daughters, okay? They are our future. In the field where I am, you know, we sort of do the missions that you have to do today, but we also invest in technology which enables, which secures the future for us. So I'm used to be thinking about, you know, the future in my field, and certainly the future of our field, our community, is in the hands of the next generation Iranian Americans, and just looking at them, you know, looking at their capabilities, and I certainly compare myself to them when I was their age, and I'm just humbled by how much more mature they are, how much more informed they are. And so I think they are the people who will secure our future. And with that, since we're getting to the end of the time, the end of our time, I'd like to ask Nazie if she would stand 20 years in the future and look back at our community. What is the vision that you have for our community if you were given a chance to look back 20 years from now?
How do I see our community? Mm-hmm. What it'll look like 20 years from now? You know, I truly see a lot of Iranian Americans in significant leadership positions in government, academia, and whatever, the arts. I think that we are a glorious group of immigrants, like those that these shores have never seen. And I really don't say that to flatter you or myself or my children. I think the statistics show that we are very different. And without a doubt, we are a lucky group of immigrants for a number of reasons. We are accidental immigrants. We did not seek out these shores in the same way that other people did. But I see Iranian Americans being analogous to the most successful Americans, kind of how you can pick out a Harvard grad in a crowd, or you can pick out the best trained doctors in a crowd or whatever. People will look at our children and say, yup, I can tell you're an Iranian American just by the way you handle yourself. So with that, our time is up, and I'm getting frantic signs. I don't know whether they want to cut their own throat or mine or what the deal is, but there's a lot of throat cutting going on in the front row. I think it's our time to say goodbye to you, and once again, I want to send a shout out to the PAAIA leadership for the transparency in governance, the transparency in fundraising, for the fact that this is not an organization about one man or one woman, for the leadership they've shown to our community thus far. I want to thank you guys for listening to Firouz and me. And I want to close with a poem or somewhat of a chant that the young heroes of Iran today, on the streets of Tehran, on the streets of Tabriz, on the streets of Isfahan, and in the jails of Iran, and in the refugee camps of Iraq and France and Sweden are saying, and I will say it first in Farsi and then I will translate it for you. Man agar pasham, to agar pashi, hame barmikhizand. To agar beshini, man agar beshinam, ki baraye ma mi istad. If I stand, if you stand, we will all stand. If you sit, if I sit, who will stand for us? Join me in standing with PAAIA for the Iranian American community. Thank you.
Thank you very much.